This is Papa Smurf. You're listening to Our Lifestyle, the podcast, with ODB and the Mayor.
Yo, this is Rob Maggi, and you're listening to Our Lifestyle podcast.
Yo, it's OLP episode 323, and I swear I heard Biggity Mike the Mayor. Is he coming off the top ropes into 2023, or is he out gallivanting?
No gallivanting today, baby. It was an all weekend, stay at home, watch football, recover, the whole 9 yards. Because, man, I tell you what, me, John Lopez, Ken Lopez, Shannon, we and the rest of our crew, we absolutely killed it at Eastbound Get Down, man. We had a great time. Definitely want to appreciate everybody coming out and supporting the show. We're in year 2, and I mean, bro, more vehicles, more spectators, just more vendor. I mean, it was a great year 2, man, and we're definitely looking forward to year 3, and we just got to nail down this date, and we're just waiting to talk with the venue. So as soon as we get that meeting with the venue done in a couple weeks, then we'll go ahead and we'll put out those dates and the information for 2024.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot to talk about with that, because there is a rumor, Mike, that was kind of floating around the show. So I do want to get to that, but everyone's got to hang tight. OLP is brought to you by our kinfolk, our family, our title sponsor, Custom Car Show Productions. Their next event in conjunction with Keg Media is Orange Beach Invasion. You can go to their all-new website, obishow.com. Robbie was very clear. You can register there, but do not register for a premium spot unless you have approval. And then, oh, by the way, Mike, let's not forget, their main flagship event is Scraping the Coast. That is, of course, going down in the month of June. Biloxi, Scraping with an IN, thecoast.com. Of course, we will be out there, or that is the third weekend in June. We'll see you guys there. But, Mike, on this episode, dude, really quick, man, bro, you remember 20 years ago, give or take, Steve Platt, he had his mini truck made into a Hot Wheels. And I'm so excited for everyone to hear the story, dude. I mean, literally 20 years later, I don't think most people know the real deal, how it went down, dude.
Well, hey, yeah, you got me wondering now because I don't know the story, and I definitely want to hear this.
Now, there was another rumor that, your head's kind of blowing up. We got to talk about this later with kind of this Bananarama hammock is now on a shirt, this Mazda. And then there was talks that you were, trying to even get with Hot Wheels about maybe a Mazda. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if a yellow. I mean, do kids like yellow Mazda pickups and Hot Wheels? I don't know, man.
Well, I don't know if kids do, but I know I do, and that's for sure. So with that being said, hey, if we can get Hot Wheels to make a yellow Mazda, that would be off the chain.
Dude, I'm calling a timeout. Your head's already blowing up. Hammered Weekend Wear announced at EBGD that they had put the brakes on one of their designs. They've never really not released 2 at a time. I know that's a double negative, but they've always released 2 at a time. And this time they did a 1-2 punch. I did see their little live video they did over at Ormond Beach. Were you super excited? I mean, dude, bro, they're all laying down for you, Mike, and I'm going, man, you're just the gallivanter, aren't you, man?
Very, very nice. Yes, I was definitely excited, bro. I was shocked. I was surprised. I think the artwork, graphic disorder, dude, we say it time and time again, they deliver every single time, and they absolutely killed it. Bro, we got strawberry shortcake in there. We got the damn mailbox in the back of the truck with mail flying out everywhere. And the sign on the door says, sorry, we're out gallivanting. Dude, that's absolute gold right there, bro. Absolute gold.
I mean, I told Dizzy and Adam, there's going to have to be some commissions paid on this one, we can't keep giving these ideas away for free, man. You know what I mean? But all due respect to Adam and Dizzy, Dizzy is kind of the right-hand guy, right, of Hammered Weekend Wear, helps with a lot with the Spark Show. He's doing Dizzy Designs. I know he's helping some of the top shows in the country with their social media stuff. And then, of course, Adam's over there kind of steering the ship, right, with HDW, which I like to call HDWW, let's be honest, Hammered Weekend Wear. Visit, hammeredweekendwear.com to order. And if you just want to check out the artwork, because listen, Mike, once they go there, they're going to be roped in, right? Hammered with a D, HAMMER, what? D dot, or Hammered Weekendwear, HAMMERD weekendwear.com. They should check it out, right, Mike?
Always. And guys, unfortunately, the pre-order's already done for, he named it Top Dog. Hey, whatever you want to name it, it's all good. I know I got my order in, and I take that back. Mrs. Mayer put the order in. She was trying to surprise me, but I'm like, bro, I got to make sure I get this order in, support the homies over at Hammered Weekend Wear, but also I got to get the damn design because it's my damn truck.
No, listen, I've already reached out because Shannon was talking about the back tattoo that you're kind of hooing and hawing around. They said they could work a deal for a licensing fee of maybe like $1,000. It might be $1,250, depends. And then you could get it as a tattoo. But again, you've got to work that deal back with them. I can't, be cutting deals for them.
True story. You're absolutely right. But I just want you to know, I definitely appreciate all your ideas. I definitely appreciate all your, and you know what? Another thing I definitely appreciate. I appreciate all the videos that you took of Eastbound Get Down, EBGDDBB, whatever you want to call it. Definitely appreciate everything, all your videos, because, man, I tell you what, they have definitely hit some numbers. And I know you made Scott, and oh, by the way, Scotty the Body. He's going to be Scotty the Body. There's no more. I apologize, Scott, for the nickname I gave you. He's been working really hard, in the gym, and he's got that Scotty the Body nickname back, and we're not even going to discuss that other nickname that I gave him.
Scott the Bot, I almost thought. It could be like if you were really in a tight deal and you had to just say it really quick. That time, like when Trump called, he said Tim Apple, and he was like, hey, I'm trying to get to the point. We could be like, Scott Bot, give me the goods, you know what I mean? But that's that's a stretch.
I gave him another nickname because I accused him of being, that C word. And and so I gave him, instead of, Scotty the Body, I kind of I put the D word in front of the body. And so, but I'm taking it back. I apologize. We're not going to call him that no more.
I hear you. Well, listen, Mike, let's gallivant over to the next segment, general updates. Listen, we're going to talk about EBGD during the scene updates, so we'll kind of draw that line. But you did mention football. I don't know why they call it football here. I mean, it should be like arm-throwing ball or something. I mean, really, let's be honest, the punters, they don't play that big. I mean, the kickers don't play that big a deal. But, again, with the NFL, the National Football League, last week, because, Mike, we probably need to say, like, professional football, right? Because I don't know that we're allowed to say NFL and that kind of stuff without the express written consent, right? Because, I mean, it says it at the end of every game. And have you got the express written consent to talk about this or no?
No, I do not, but that's okay. We'll still make it happen.
Okay, so in the professional football arena, last weekend, Joe Burrow, dude, you talk about coming out like with a throat punch. Dude, let's be honest, I'm not a Bengals fan at all, right? I did like Ocho Cinco. I thought he had some swag. But you use the S word, dude, and if you use the S word without Joe Burrow's name coming up, bro, he come out literally was like throat punching, and I thought Buffalo had a little chance. My wife asked me before the game. I said, look, if I was a betting man, I would not bet against Joe Burrow. And, Mike, I don't know if you saw the beginning of it, but it was like 1-2 punch. Couldn't believe it.
They absolutely destroyed the Buffalo Bills, and it was in Buffalo. All that snow, no excuses. Cincinnati walked in there, and especially good old Joe, and showed those guys who's your daddy, because he took it to them, and it was a beautiful thing, that's for sure.
Yeah, and when I had Rob Maggi on, I use these lyrics, but it goes back to the Ice Cube song "Wicked," and he goes, and I hate to even say it because, I wish the Bills could win and do more, but, he says, and I won't choke like the Buffalo Bills. Now I'm just chilling, sitting in the house, just chilling because Larry Parker just got me $2 million. And, of course, I brought that up with Rob Maggi, and he kind of laughed because he's probably thinking, how the hell do you know Larry Parker was he's an attorney in, like, Los Angeles? And that's where the lyrics, like, when I was younger, I was like, who the hell is Larry Parker? Then I got older, and I was like, oh, he's an attorney. But anyways, Ice Cube says, no, I won't choke like the Buffalo Bills. And you and I both know I hate it because they lost those 4 Super Bowls in the early 90s, It's tough.
Well, I'm not surprised that you knew who he was, that you knew the lyrics, that you knew the quotes, that you knew the dates. Doesn't surprise me at all.
Oh, speaking of date, did you see the other day, which it's not official, it's more of a fandom thing, someone went through and they figured out, when Ice Cube says today was a good day, let's be honest, we all know that's a fictitious day, right? I mean, it wasn't like, Cube sat down. But, the guy went through the calendar and he kind of figured out all of the dates, and basically in the fandom world, the date of January 20th, 1992 is known as National Good Day Day. So, Good Day. And, that had to, that tied into, of course, when there was no smog in Los Angeles and, he got a beep from Kim and she could kind of do it all night. Of course, the Lakers beat the Supersonics, as you know. That was a huge thing. But he also had to F around to get a triple-double with the homies, So, someone figured it out, January 20th, 1992. So, I had to post that on January 20th, of course. But anyways, so listen, if you had to pick, getting back to the National Football, I have 2 teams in my head that I think that are going to just like steamroll this weekend. If you had to pick the 2 winners this weekend, who's going to the big game? Because we can't say a Super Bowl, right? We can't.
The big game, yeah, no, absolutely, big game, yeah. Well, this is really easy, and I'm going to say it's going to be the Philadelphia Eagles and the Cincinnati Bengals are going to the Super Bowl.
I concur. I mean, both of those teams seem like they're just hitting on all cylinders. You know what I mean? And if anybody disagrees, let us know. It'll be interesting to see if both of those teams go, because we know a lot of us thought Joe Burrow was going to even do more the last. I mean, how young he is. He's already been to a Super Bowl. I mean, a big game. But
the big game. Yep.
The general updates brought to you by our kinfolk at Lone Star Throwdown. Mike, we're getting ready to fishtail into February. And for those that don't know, of course, LoneStarThrowdown.com is where you're going to get all the information. Of course, follow them via social media. And we'll be out there 30 days, 13 hours, 43 minutes, and 5 seconds from the point that I just said that. The registrations are sold out, Mike, but the 24th, 25th, 26th, it's going down in Conroe.
Oh, yeah. Can't wait, guys. Because I tell you what, if you guys have not been to Conroe, Texas, for that little show called LST, you guys are missing out. It is by far one of the biggest and baddest truck shows in the freaking United States. Guys, there's like 20,000 of our closest friends there with us. So make sure you guys get out there and check out LST. And because it's a little too late now, because pre-registration is already over, it's a little too late because no more transfer of the registrations. So make sure you guys don't miss out next year when the pre-registration opens up.
Yeah, and don't disrespect them by saying the biggest, baddest show in the United States. Let's be honest, Mike. I've already tapped them in the universe, right? I mean, the universe is a big place. I mean, lots of light years away, right? But they also have classic truck throwdown. And just hear me out. Think LST plus, give or take, 4 months. Right, so, June 30th to July 2nd, same venue, classic truck throwdown, plans to bring together the best vendors, builders, and participants. So just stay tuned for more information on classic truck throwdown. You can follow them on Instagram. So big ups. That's a part of the LST. Let's call them the Throwdown family, Mike. That's the Throwdown family.
Absolutely. That's the best way of putting it right there.
Now, Mike, I got one question for you. Are you ready?
Now it's time to get serious.
I'm always ready to get it wrong. Let's go.
Dude, LMC from Mike. You've heard of Lowest Common Denominator podcast, right? You know LMC.
I think I've listened to it once or twice.
Now listen, I know his ears, his antennas are up, right, and he is gonna hone in on this one because this does tie into my understanding his favorite movie. Okay, now we know that more than likely you won't get it, but remember, Mike, this is also not just for you; it's for our awesome listeners, and we got to thank them for always tuning in. However they find us, whether it's YouTube or a podcast app, we can't thank them enough. So, Mike, I mean, we got to keep it entertaining, right?
Oh, always.
So, do you happen to know what one of his favoritists / maybe favorite movie of all time is?
Are we talking about LMC's favorite movie?
Yes, sir.
Oh, well, his favorite movie of all time is got to be The Beverly Hillbillies.
Dude, in the pilot episode of that show, you can see a 63 Lincoln Continental white?
Sure.
That's a good one, man. That's a good one. The Beverly Hillbillies. But listen.
Oh, was I wrong?
Yeah, that wasn't even the question. I mean, it was, you got thinking Pat Swayze and Jennifer Grey. I don't know what you guys think of her,
so
but
Roadhouse.
Right, dude. I'll tell you what, man. If you guys haven't seen that in 4K, that motherfucker's a good movie right there, dude.
Oh, all right.
So
for real now,
you could only wish
dirty,
to be as awesome as Pat Swayze. Let's be honest, dude.
Oh, absolutely. But it's actually Dirty Dancing.
Yep, it is. So look, this is kind of going to be a softball for some. Others are going to be scratching their head, going, what is it, right? So, I got to kind of keep these questions like fun for everyone, right? Because I can't make them so difficult that like nobody could ever get them. You know what I mean? So, all you have to do is tell us Jennifer Grey's name. Okay, you get a partial point for if you only get half of it right. Well, I will give you, because I think you're down to 0 ticks, right? So you're almost on the verge of like having to pay, the $100 per wrong answer to OLP. So Jennifer Grey, what is her full name in the movie? The 1987, let's not even call it a cult classic, straight drama, romance, whatever you want to call it, classic movie, directed by Emilio Ardolino, right? I always say his name wrong. But what was Jennifer Grey's name, full name? Not just first, not just last, full name in the movie.
I always thought it was Baby.
Well, ding, ding, ding. You got half of it right. Do you want to take a wild guess on what the second part was? I mean, just, her dad had the obviously same last name. Her dad's name was Jake, by the way. But, you got to think of what could their last name have been? Okay,
well, I'm just going to say, was it Crybaby?
No, it wasn't. Mike, put all the cards in on the house on this one and go for it, man. I think I'm going to give you one more chance.
All the cards, bro. You got too much. I got too much pressure on me. That's just too much pressure. But how about we just knock it out of the park and say her last name was Smith?
No. Good guess though, but it was Houseman. So right, can put all the cards in the house. You know what I mean? A little on there. But her name was Baby Houseman. Little different. So for those that didn't know, hey, it's fun time. And Mike, you're kind of, when the quarterback runs in the end zone and it's you're like, oh my God, it's going to be a safety, and he just barely gets the ball out of the end zone. That's kind of where you're at right now. You know what I mean? You're kind of, you haven't gotten to safety. You're about to give up 2 points, but not on this drive. Let's be honest. You know what I mean?
No problem. I understand. But hey, at least I got the first part of it right,
dude. I'm telling you, good job. Trivia with Mike brought to you by AccuAir, ACCU AccuAir.com. Arguably the best air management system ever produced. Whether you want to do the E-level or just the controller, or step it up to some of the other products that they offer. AccuAir.com. And Mike, they also were one of the key sponsors of EBGD. So we got to thank them for supporting the scene.
Oh, absolutely.
So Mike, next Hut 1, Hut 2, Hut 3, Hut, Old Dirty Ballard, live and uncut. Dude, this one's simple, man. Remember all the positivity? Vic and I have been talking. We're going to do our best this year, and we've done this already. We're going to hit some local shows. So I would encourage people, we always talk about going to these biggest, baddest shows, crossing the country, flying out, doing all that. That is great if you've got the time, if you've got the resources. Many of us are true hardcore enthusiasts. Mike, but we cannot forget the local shows. I know coming up here, there's the show at OCC. We were all there last year, right?
Yeah, we're going to be there again this year.
Yeah, autism awareness.
Yep.
And I think, the people that raise those funds and even do what you guys did in Ormond Beach, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes, that stuff is all good. So, again, I would encourage you, if you can get involved, maybe you can rally the troops and bring 10, 15 people out to one of those shows and kind of help them. I'll be going to a show at a church for someone that I worked with forever, for a very long time, so I'm looking forward to doing that, like in the morning time on February 11th, and then boom, February 11th is the autism awareness show, and there's others that we'll be going to, but I'm going to try to focus a little bit on that, help kind of the local community, maybe drum up some people, but post about it as well. Do your best to kind of post and say, hey, guys, come out, because I'm guilty of this too, Mike. Like, I won't post like, hey, there's a show coming up, and then I attend and I post a photo, and people go, man, I wish I would have known. I would have come out. So kind of spread the word through social media that you're going to be hitting these shows if you can, and I think that's a good thing, Mike.
Absolutely. I'm making a post right now so I don't forget, my man.
I love it. ODB Live in a Cut, sponsored by Joey at Get Decked. We've told you time and time again on Instagram, look up Get Decked _VA. That's Joey Dilworth. You can hit him up in the DM. He's a good dude. And what I would tell you is, if you have artwork, a photo, you name it, let Joey know if you want to put it on a skate deck. Shows like Lone Star Throwdown are continuing to order more and more skate decks. And it has really reinforced that we all love this stuff to display in our man caves and Woe Man caves. You can also go to getdecked.bigcartel.com and order some of his recent merchandise that he's dropped, including the hard body skate deck. And Mike, what's very, very cool about that one is it features David Magotti's awesome crew cab. Crew cab's on the rise, Nissan hard body. So make sure you get decked and hit up Joey Dilworth. He'll take care of you or the show that you are representing. Ain't that right, Mike?
Hey, and they did us right at Eastbound Get Down, and he can do you right as well.
Aren't you going Sizzler now? I mean, you guys had a good show. You're like, we going Sizzler. You've seen White Men Can't Jump. I mean, if you haven't, you got to go back and watch. It's a cult classic, Mike. Cult classic.
Oh, absolutely. No. That's that was an absolute cult classic. I would agree with that one.
Nick, I swear, if they were to make a part 2, we could maybe get you casted as Billy. You know what I mean? Possibly.
Hey, I'm in. I
just want to see you with the Nikes on. You know what I'm saying? I think you can pull them off. All right, Mike.
Oh, shit.
Next, we got the scene updates, dude, and we got to start with EBGD. But listen, here's the rumor. Here's the elephant in the room, Mike. We have heard, a lot of people talking, and I'm gonna confront you right now on this, dude. I know you're gonna love it, but there was a rumor that EBGD could become EBCD. Is there any? I hate to see you guys change the name, but it would kind of be good. I mean, is that rumor kind of getting stirred up by some nefarious people or what?
Well, 2 years in a row, it's been a little chilly at Eastbound Get Down, and our good friend, Don Dizzy Davis, decided that he's going to make a new logo for Eastbound Get Down. And he actually went ahead and just renamed it as well while he was at it. And he actually called it Eastbound Chill Down.
EBCD for short.
Hey, absolutely. Whatever initials you want to call it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was kind of cute. So I made a post and I included that in there. And so but it is not being changed. So it is still Eastbound Get Down. But it was definitely cute. That I'll say that.
Yeah, and what I would tell people is you could check out EBGD2023, that hashtag, or tap on Eastbound Get Down. And if you just go back to some of our posts, you don't have to type it all in, just tap on it. You can follow Eastbound Get Down hashtag, but look at some of the videos Mike, here's what I was so like thankful for the scene, especially in Florida, right? There were a lot of shows you and I talked earlier this week, and I mean, you could almost count between 10 and 15 events slash shows, literally. I'm not going to rattle them all off here, but that's how many we had 2 years ago in the state of Florida, and people were going, dude, we got too many. And quickly, it's back down to what we've had for years for the most part. But, Mike, on Saturday morning, I started seeing all the clubs packing in. You know, NC came hard in the paint. Aftermath, Acro was there, you know, like literally just doing the damn thing. RA Kinfolk, a little bit of ST was rolling through. We had a good time. Bro, like, it was awesome to see, like you said at the beginning, everyone come out in waves and just have a great time at Eastbound Get Down, because it was a get down.
Oh, absolutely, man. And like I said, we had more vehicles this year. We had more spectators this year, more vendors this year, and we look forward to year 3. And not only that, but we also raised $5,700 for the dogs. It was awesome, which, we pretty much almost doubled what we did the year prior. So we had a really good year, and we got to definitely thank everybody for coming out and supporting the show.
Yeah, and what I would say to shows that raise money, we've seen this at Southeast Mini Truck and Nats. We've seen Relaxin' in the Park, St. Louis, also known as Relaxin' in the Park. We've seen them do it. A lot of shows do it. 2 things. If you can raise the funds and you can do something at a show and you see the people walk away with the money or the check, the big check or whatever, do that. Or we've seen Relaxin' in the Park, again, in the past where, they do their charity type things. I know the Spark Show has done the same thing, where then on Facebook, they're sharing where the money's going. They're sharing where all of the, all of the different things that they raise and collect and stuff like that. So I highly encourage shows to do that, because it really shows that, hey, this is where it's going. And that made me feel good. I mean, dude, the smile of them walking off the stage there was just worth $1 million. And again, it went to, Mike, keep me honest, this lady helps people that don't have the money to maybe feed their animals. A lot of people struggle, right, with money week to week, month to month, and they help feed animals that are literally starving.
It's Sophie's Circle Dog Rescue is what it is. It's a local place there in Daytona, and they take in dogs that, it's a dog shelter, and they take these dogs in that people can't take care of anymore, or and they keep them. It's a no kill. They do not kill any of the dogs. They keep the dogs until somebody can take one of the dogs and house one of the dogs.
Yep. Now I want you to just, if you can, I'm going to put you on the spot. There were certain people that made skate decks, if you can think of them all, and I know you probably can. There were certain people that made these decks that literally was, from what I saw, right, that was the main injection of this what do we call it, auction, right?
Yep.
And I'll talk about what NC did at the end, which I thought was cool, if you don't mind. But just, if you can, let us know who did some of these decks, because I tell you what, man, they were fucking awesome, dude.
Yes, they were. Well, we had a surprise one, which was actually Thad. Thad showed up to the show this year, and he actually brought a deck. Didn't even ask him to do it, and he actually brought a deck down to be auctioned off. And we had Crystal Brockshire, I believe is how you pronounce her last name. She did her deck. Billy the Kid did a deck. Feldham Fad did a deck. Jason Feldham, Daniel Smith from Smithworks did a deck. We had Smiley Soto do a deck. We had how many is that? Keep me honest here. How many?
Dude, I lost count. I'll be honest.
You already lost count. You're not supposed to be losing count.
I was over here working on Smutfest, dude. I got a couple receipts I had to put in my system. Sorry.
Oh, hey, no problem. I totally understand. I totally get it. Smith works.
Jesus. No, hold on. And we got to try to call him in a minute. Today's his 50th birthday.
Mike. don't forget Pinstripe and Mikey. He did a deck for us, which that ended up raising $950 just for that one deck. But all decks raised quite a bit of money. There wasn't one that didn't raise, a lot of money. And then, of course, we threw in two of the decks, the actual show decks. And of course, we can't forget about Fatty B. It's not a skate deck, but it's the canvas print that he drew up for us. And that got auctioned off as well. So, I mean, all of them, like I said, they brought in $5,700. Well, I'm sorry, they brought in $5,200. And then you go ahead and tell us how that rest of that $500 was raised.
Well, I will, but listen, can we do this real quick? We can't.
Absolutely.
We can't forget about.
How did we forget?
No.
Well, you know why I forgot about Robert?
No. This we're gonna call them in a second because guess what? Robert and Roxy, right? You know them.
Yep.
They Robert's born day. He's the big 5-0. Dude, he skipped over 4-0. You know when Cypress goes, that's why I don't mess with the big 4-0. My mind is going insane. Dude, he went and goes, yo, I'm going to leapfrog 4-0 and go to 5-0, right? We need to call them right now. They're big supporters of the podcast. We need to thank them right now, dude. What do you think? Can you call them and patch them in on a three-way deal? Nizzo, Hizzo, Mizzo?
Let's see what we got here. Now, the question is does he know we're calling?
Dude, I told him we're steamrolling him. He has no clue, dude.
ODB.
Hey, Robert, how you doing?
Hey, man, how's it going?
Good. We wanted to say happy born day on OLP for this week, brother. It's going to air on Friday, but how you doing? How you enjoying it?
Oh, man, it's been awesome so far. I appreciate it.
I told Mike you skipped over 4-0 and went right to 5-0.
Yeah, no doubt.
Mike wanted to also thank you, right, for EBGD, right, Mike?
Absolutely, brother. That skate deck that you painted was, I don't know if you heard the story or not, but check this out. So I told my wife I wanted that skate deck. So my wife is sitting there and she's bidding on it. As I'm holding the skate deck, she's bidding on the deck. And then it come down to my wife, and my wife looks over and she looks over at this little old lady that's right up front. This lady had to be 75, 80 years old. And my wife looks at her and she goes, am I bidding against you? And she goes, yeah. And she goes, sweetheart, I can't bid against you. Do you really want the board? She goes, well, I don't want it, but my son does. And she goes, ma'am, it's all yours. And so she stopped the bidding and let this little old lady finish bidding out on it. And I think it ended up going for $550, if I'm not mistaken.
Man, that's crazy.
Is that Roxy?
So,
we hear you guys getting down, having a good time?
Oh, yeah.
We are. Hey, guys.
Hey, what's
How we
up?
doing, sweetie?
You know, we might be
awesome.
That's good. We might be interrupting. They're probably going out to eat, and they're probably going, "Yo, why are these crazy guys calling us?"
No, not yet. We're not going out to eat for about another hour because the kids have to do homework and stuff. So
yeah, Roxy keeps the whole clan right in line. You know what I mean? I bet you she's the best. Man. She's the best project manager. I guarantee it in the whole area.
Oh, definitely.
Well, I can tell you this, Robert. That board was phenomenal. I mean, it was the front, the back, and it was so funny because when DJ announces it on the stage, he's like, hey, guys, we got a little surprise for you on this one. Not only is the front done and kick-ass, but, guys, and I flip it over, he goes, so is the back. And it was like, ooh. And that little old lady, she's like, yeah, it's for my son. So my wife couldn't bid against the old lady.
Oh, man, that's awesome, man. I'm glad we could help out with that. I hate we missed it, man. We sure wanted to come for sure.
No problem.
Well, hey.
And thanks for shipping it. But, Mike, I had to get a little bit of a ruse over on you, right? When you got there, you were a little stressed, weren't you, man? And how did it go down, Mike?
Well, here's the deal, because you can't depend on ODB to do anything.
Come on, man.
And so when he's sitting there, he goes, bro, it hasn't shown up yet. I don't know what to do. I don't know what's going on. And then he goes on to tell me that, yeah, Robert sent me these pictures of this board. He goes, but man, what I got in the mail doesn't look nothing like that. And so he shows up with this board that looked like it had been jumped about 100 times on some ramp. It was all scratched up. And I was like, bro, what did you do with the damn board? He sent me videos. I've seen videos. I've seen pictures of this thing. It did not look nothing like that. and then he finally shows up later on that Sunday. But see, just like ODB to have short arms when it comes to paying for anything, he had short arms. He had short arms when it came to giving me that board too.
Yeah.
Man.
Yep.
He was probably hoping you forgot about it.
Yeah, I was. I would have pitched in though. The other thing I wanted to point out, Mike, is Robert. I don't know if he's really announced it, but they did acquire another truck. I mean, Roxy, she knows Robert doesn't give the whole story, so she was like, "Yo, check this out," But there was a video that I did of a 720 at Lone Star Throwdown last year. Is there really truth to that, Robert? Did you end up acquiring that one?
There is. We ended up with it, yeah. And actually, man, I ended up naming it what you put the song to. I mean, the video to with the music.
No way, man.
Yeah, Point of No Return. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Bro, Mike, you better watch out because he's going to be in the there's the domestic class, and then there's the other class. All the the Japanese trucks and stuff. And Mike, he's going to be in your class, dude. So he might take you out.
Hey, I honestly, it's not even Robert's truck. That's Roxy's truck.
Right?
Yeah, we're building her one. So hopefully, y'all's next show next year. I don't know how we're going to do it. But we're going to try to bring 3.
Oh, I like it. You
better get that discount code for Mike for that pre-registration. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because his is a white one. This is his 50th present. And then he has, the tan one. But then mine's going to be custom because it is an 84, an 85, and an 86 by the time we piece it together like a Frankenstein to have all the years to fix my truck.
Mike, she's going to be remixing the Johnny Cash, the 64, 65, 66, 67, but she's going to do the 80s version.
It's definitely the Johnny Cash special.
I love it, dude. That's great.
That is awesome.
Now, the other thing is, I did want to mention that, we have Robert on our short list of like the next, we're kind of doing bi-weekly right now, but Robert, we didn't forget about you. We wanted to wish you happy born day, but we'll get you on because, dude, you got a lot of ties to old school BMX. You got a love there, of course, but then you're a Nissan 720 fan. And, Mike, I just want to give a shout out to, speaking of 720, 720 ERA brand. These guys have really supported us a long time. I know you guys follow them, so everyone check them out on Instagram. But Roxy, Robert, any kind of last words, man? We appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, we appreciate you
man,
guys.
we appreciate you, man. And anything we can do to help y'all, man, we're down with that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, if we come off the top ropes on Mike next year, we might need you to get a couple elbows in there. You know what I mean?
We might just have to take Mike his own deck. That way he has his own deck, and then he won't be worried about being knocked out of the prize list if he has his own skateboard deck.
Well, I mean, Mike did just get a shirt and stuff. We can't keep blowing this guy's head up. You know what I mean?
Oh, no. But hey, actually, with that being said, Roxy, we will definitely be talking because my wife absolutely loved that one. And Valentine's Day is coming up. Or what show are you guys going to be at next?
We're actually going to one here in about 2 weeks here in Mobile, where we're from. So it'll be
the Mobtown
show.
Show.
You guys at Mobtown.
Yeah, shout out to those guys.
Yep. What about? Are you guys going to be at OBI?
No,
we don't know on that exactly.
We're trying to decide yet on that. So it depends on wrestling finals if that's going to happen that weekend or not. Because cheer and wrestling right now are taking priority over car shows.
Sure,
absolutely. Hey, family first. We say it all the time.
Okay,
absolutely.
Cool.
So and definitely, in case you don't know this today, I know Robert's not going to brag on himself. Part of his birthday surprise was I had the Eddie Fiola FaceTime Robert and talked to Robert and told him happy birthday today.
Dude, that's awesome.
Wow. Oh,
dude,
man, we got wife of the year and Robert's birthday today. Check this out.
Robert,
I just want my truck built. I'm doing anything I can to get my truck finished, okay?
Robert, let me give you some feedback. Don't finish the truck, but then do the dishes or something this week. Vacuum or something. You know what I'm saying? I mean, seriously,
you get some trash, wash the dishes, fold clothes, man. Whatever you got to do to make her life easier this week.
Whatever it takes.
We love it.
Man, that's so awesome that y'all called me, man, and I really appreciate the birthday wishes, man.
Dude, for real, 5-0, and we'll link up soon. And have fun this week. Don't do any tricks on your bike and get hurt. You know what I mean? See y'all.
Man.
Hey, you
All
guys
right.
take care.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you so much,
Appreciate
man.
it.
All right.
Late.
Thank you.
So, Mike, you got to thank him right there, dude, which is awesome. And I tell you what, Roxy and Robert, they always come through, and that was really cool of them.
Oh man, I tell you what, and that deck that he did, front back was just absolutely. It was kick ass, man. But that was a true story. I don't know if you were on the stage when that happened, but it was pretty cool when Shannon looks over and she sees she sees the little old lady, and she's like, "Yes." And Shannon's like, "I can't bid against you, sweetheart. It's yours. It's yours."
Yep.
Well, thank you. And her son was right there. He was all excited.
Dude, it was a great moment. Another great moment, I do want to throw a guy that we know locally, Joe Sand. He painted the graphics on Amanda Rose's S10, and you saw it out there. It was in the Suburbia Suds, I believe is how you say it.
Yep.
He was in the booth, and what was cool, she's representing acrophobia, but I mean, she was when we came over there and I was doing a video of her truck, like she was like just so happy, you know what I mean? And it was like, hey, I love doing the videos. I mean, I just do it for the content. But, you know, to see someone really appreciate, you know, someone just taking a moment. A lot of people look at us kind of like as featuring their vehicle. You know, however you spin it, dude, it was pretty awesome. So, you know, congrats to her out there doing the damn thing.
Yes, sir. Came out kick ass, man.
Last couple things, Mike, here. Brian Conrad and Jessica Roach. They got their care package. They have the S10 So Clean with a K, So Clean. That was featured in the Japan magazine. Used to be called Truck Trends, now known as CTM, Custom Trucks Mag. So that was pretty cool. I did see that out there. There's a lot of stuff going on in the scene. Good stuff. I know Matt Hodgson, he mentioned his new build that's going to be coming out, Boombox. Some pretty cool stuff. I'm excited to hopefully link up with him in the near future, which I think is awesome. Yeah, Mike, and then, dude, I got to give you a shout-out to Bobby Malone. I slapped hands with him. That blue crew cab, he said he was itching to get back into a crew cab. With the graphics, dude, that thing was popping off, dude.
Well, hey, I'm more than pretty sure that was painted by Smithworks as well, because that thing is absolutely killer, man. I mean, that thing's badass.
Yeah, it looked awesome, dude. I know there's probably more stuff, but I'm going to have to wrap it there as far as the scene updates. But I do want to say this, Mike. We can't forget about all of the people. And I say we, you know, it's you and John. For those that don't know, it's John, Mike, and then there are significant others that really put this event on. But I want to thank, and I know you do as well, the people that came from far and wide, like Outcast said. You know, you think about the DPs from WV, right? Daryl Pose, Nikki, but you all think about all of the different folks that came from far and wide to come to the show, multiple states represented, and that made me feel good because I tell you, man, Florida has been on the map for a long time. It's cool to see another big show that's really kind of starting to really get its traction, and it was awesome to see so many people from out of state.
Yes, man. It was. I'm not going to sit here and act like I remember, you know, everybody that came from all the different places, but we definitely had all the states covered, man. I mean, there was a bunch of people from a bunch of different places, and like I said before, man, we definitely appreciate all the support, and we look forward to year 3, man, because it should be absolute a killer year 3.
Yep, and I just thought about this. I got a chance to see Ashley Wimmer, Steve Robinson. I got a chance to see Glenn and Dizzy. Like I said, we can't, you know, I can't name everyone, but you know, seeing Nikki and DP from WV, right? Daryl Poe, his truck was of course on the artwork. It was really, really cool. So again, if we didn't say your name, no slight there. The last thing I did want to share about EBGD was the guys at Negative Camber, right? So Jay was up there leading kind of the force at that point. They had one club participation, as you know, Mike. You guys came like freaking wild hyenas, dude. 35, 37 vehicles, dude. I loved it. They win
41, my friend.
41, dude. Look at me trying to kind of X out a couple of them. But all respect to NC, my brothers over there, and Mike, they took their award, which was the cooler, or as Ryan from Graphics Mafia would say, the cooler, right? They took the cooler and they donated it back, And the guys, you know what show they represent in October. These guys step up to the plate. They hit it out, dude, a Babe Ruth deal. And they bid, and that put the money, the pot, almost to $6K, bro.
Yes, they did. So the guys, NC, took the cooler, put it back up for auction. All the money's going to go to Sophie Circle. And the guys from Showdown in the Valley won the cooler, and that was the additional $500 that got us up to $5,700 for Sophie Circle. So yes, hats off to NC for, first of all, bringing out 41 vehicles, and second of all, for Showdown in the Valley bidding on it, being the high bidder, and that money going to Sophie Circle. So it was pretty awesome, man. It really shows how the scene comes together and helps out, and they supported the show and supported a great cause.
Real deal. And Mike, we got to give a huge shout out. Showdown in the Valley. So 5 words. Think when we had Southeast Mini Truck and Nats in October that year. Okay, because of COVID, Jason Bell and team. These guys, they have their own separate event. Of course, Showdown in the Valley. But the reason why I said that is think Maggie Valley in the fall, October 6th, 7th, and 8th in Maggie Valley. If you guys want to find out more information, remember Maggie Valley is an amazing cruising town. Visit showdowninthevalley.com, just how it sounds, or Showdown in the Valley on Facebook or Instagram. They can find more information, Mike. Okay, the scene update is brought to you by Garage Gear Clothing. Visit garagegearclothing.com. They have free shipping on orders, I believe, $100 or more. You can also follow Garage Gear on YouTube for free and see their awesome content that Lonnie continues to produce. garagegearclothing.com. Mike, the show updates, look, I'm going to hit on it quick. February is the Aftermath Florida Bowling Tournament and Lone Star Throwdown, which we said earlier. Orange Beach Invasion going down, obishow.com for more. Again, part of our title sponsors there. We're looking forward to Orange Beach, Alabama in the spring break time period next, about 2 months from the time that we're recording this, third week in March. And then April, we're going to be at Southeast Mini Truck and Nats, also known as Mini Nats. Gallivant in to town and chill with us. Again, anybody can ride a wristband to get in. The cruising is not a crime. Of course, there you can also cruise, no cost. Come on down. Those are the show updates brought to you by minitruckfilm.com. You can pick up the West Coast Influence at minitruckfilm.com. That's the Blu-ray or DVD. Mike, the only podcast update is the skate deck shipped. So thank you to you and Mrs. Mayer for knocking those out, man.
Oh, absolutely, brother. And thank everybody for putting those orders in and getting them. And guys, we got more, but they will be available at LST when we are there.
That's correct. And be on the lookout possibly this weekend for a pre-sale to launch of some cool new stuff. And keep it posted. We'll also keep your eye locked on the email, because remember, with the way the algorithm stuff is, I'll post stuff. People say, man, I wish I would have known. I would have ordered. The algorithm stuff is weird. You don't always see the stuff that we post. We're going to be blasting out an email. So the podcast updates this week brought to you by Graphics Mafia, GRAPHIX, mafia.com. Hit up Ryan and Buddy. They will take care of you if you need light design work, maybe some stickers, decals, SEMA, whatever. They'll take care of you. Mike, the last thing, Airhead Nation updates. Dude, there was a lot of different things I think I had saved. I did, cover the thing about Amanda Rose's truck earlier, which I thought was awesome. So I wanted to kind of shout that out. And the last shout out was, speaking of Rose, it made me think of, I may have said this on the last one, but Sean Rose, he had, from Rose Metalworks, he had given a happy heavenly born day to Sarah. He posted that on January 3rd. And, he's continuing to represent spreading the love. And I've been saying this, we got to sit back down with Sean and get an update from him and David Magotti. Love what they're doing. More to come on Mini Nats and how they're going to help that amazing woman out that that I announced last week. So more to come from those amazing guys. Mike, the podcast update, or the Airhead Nation updates, brought to you by CNS Metalworks. Hit up Chris and team C&S Metalworks on Instagram, or c-smetalworks.com, or cs-metalworks.com. If you need air suspension, they will take care of you. Mike, I think that's it. We went a little longer than we expected, but Mike, that's what we do sometimes.
Hey, it's been a while, so it's good to catch up. It's good to be back on here. And, like we always say, man, Airhead Nation, stay low, and look forward to seeing everybody at Dragon the Alley. So make sure you guys, if you haven't got signed up yet, make sure you guys get signed up. It's club versus club bowling tournament. And prior to the bowling tournament, it's a little car show in the parking lot. So come out, bring out the ride, have a good time. There's plenty of food there, plenty of drinks, and let's have a good time.
And that's on 24 Dragon the Alley on Instagram for more. Mike, appreciate you. You guys stay tuned. We're going to go ahead and jump in now to Steve Platt. Dude, Hot Wheels, Steel Flame. You guys will really enjoy this one. Stay on the rise, Mike.
See ya.
Hey, I'm super excited to sit down with Steve Platt, and I just want to say I appreciate you sitting down, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for this opportunity here. Appreciate it.
No doubt, man. I'm really excited about this. Some of the guys, especially on the west side, they know you. Why don't you give just a little bit of background about yourself, Steve? Like where maybe you grew up and kind of the story of, where you live and whatnot.
I grew up in the South Bay, Southern California area. I currently live in Henderson, Nevada right now. I own and run a fabrication shop doing ornamental steel, security doors, railings, gates. Mm-hmm. I also do a lot for special events companies out here for private parties, stuff like that. So that keeps me pretty busy. Obviously, I've got kids. I've got 5 kids, 2 of the house now, 3 still at home. So they keep me pretty busy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now I remember we'll talk about Steel Flame throughout this interview. I remember in the feature, I think it was Torrance, California. Like, did you or are your roots out there in California?
Yeah. I was born in San Diego. Lived there for probably 6 months, and then moved a little bit up north to the South Bay area, Torrance, Gardena area.
Got it. Now, oftentimes I always got to bring this up. You think late 70s, 80s, the epic times that we had. Many of us over here were reading Freestyle magazine and skateboarding and stuff. Was that kind of part of the culture that you were involved in as well?
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah, I was big time into skateboarding, BMX racing, all that stuff. RC car racing. My mother's side of the family, they are we're owners of Team Associated RC cars. So I was into RC cars big time back then.
Awesome.
But yeah, BMX racing, skateboarding, every day, bodyboarding, all that good stuff out there.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to my buddy, The 80s Garage, 80S. So The 80s Garage on Instagram. If you guys are into the stuff we're into, what Steve and I are talking about now with skate decks and even RC cars and stuff. This guy has an amazing collection of cool stuff. It's always cool to look back at some of the packaging and some of the stuff that people are able to amass and collect. Because, man, I tell you, Steve, when I see some of that stuff, it brings me back to the early days. And it's crazy to me, though, that the 80s are so kind of really coming back because, some of these companies are re-releasing the old stuff, and it's just insane to me. It was really an epic era.
Yeah, there's a bunch of pages I follow on Instagram, 80s pages and stuff, and it brings back so many good memories. Just a while ago, maybe about, 3 years ago, I started to collect skateboard decks again, and it got bad.
Yeah, it's an addiction.
Yeah, I had a bunch of decks on the walls up in my loft, and then, a few stacks of decks, and it just got to the point where, okay, this is ridiculous. I got to stop, but I started selling some off, and then I kept the ones that meant a lot to me, the McGills, the older Powell decks that I used to skate. And then I kept some of the decks that my family bought me for, presents and stuff like that. But most of the stuff, I sold off. I had a lot of Cliver decks, Key decks. I had a lot. I collected first it was the 80s decks, and then I started getting into the 90s decks. But yeah, I ended up selling off a lot of decks. And like I said, I still got a few left.
Yeah, we kind of feed our addiction, and then we go. It's kind of a good feeling sometimes to sell the stuff off. I kind of did that with some of the GI Joe retro stuff, and my son didn't get into it. And then I was like, man, I got all this stuff, and then I sold some of it. But I was happy to see growing up. There was a guy, Kevin Staub. Many know him, and the Genie decks. I always wish that they would have reissued them, and then he kind of. I think he had an injury. A lot of those guys are getting older, and then he recently did something where it was one of the decks he had reissued and signed and things like that. But to your point, to at least have maybe one or two or a handful that are etched in our minds is always a cool thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, many of us kind of skateboarding, BMX, that era, and then boom, we hit 16, maybe even 15, and we're itching for something. How did you get involved in custom stuff? Anyone in your family that maybe kind of sparked that itch that you had?
Yeah, I think it's always been in my blood. My uncle, he's been drag racing all his life. He built 67 El Camino that was on the cover of Super Chevy back in the day. Mm-hmm. He built a 66, 67 Malibu that he also drag raced, big block motor. He was one of the engine builders over at TRD Racing, so he was doing a lot of NASCAR stuff. Ended up running the Spintron program there before he retired. Wow. So I think it's always been in my blood. I've always been around cars. I've always had an interest in mechanics and stuff like that. I didn't really have too many people around me when I was growing up. When I was younger to teach me stuff. So it was kind of all self-taught. Mm-hmm. I part of Gardena that I grew up in, all my friends were older. So as we were all riding skateboards and bikes, but some of them were getting into cars. So I was just kind of hanging out with them, the Volkswagens, and then it turned into Hondas. And, then I ended up buying a Honda and, I got into the street racing and all that with the Hondas. And so I was always around it, and always was drawn to it. No matter where I was, I always seen a car that I liked. I was paying attention to that more than other things I should have been paying attention to. So
yeah, it was crazy how that stuff will just kind of draw us in,
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned San Diego earlier and some of the areas in California. Do you have any memories like when you were kind of that, 15, 16, 17, did you see mini trucks or did you have the homies that were hitting, tilt beds and stuff that like drew you in specifically to the trucks?
So the first time I've ever seen a mini truck, I want to say it was a Nissan hardbody on Porsche alloys.
Ah, yeah.
It was a teal with a white hardtop, and I must have been 5th or 6th grade. Wow. I've never seen a mini truck before that, and even after that, didn't really see too many of them. There was a couple other guys around my neighborhood that had Toyotas. They had the old saw blade rims on them. The 15s, they stuck out real far.
Yep.
But the mini truck scene, at least when I was growing up, I really wasn't exposed to it. Like I said, it was more of like the Hondas and stuff, in the South Bay area.
Yep.
It wasn't until I was actually older and working at Mattel is when I got into the sport trucks.
Yeah, pretty awesome. And when you start talking about Mattel, I remember a few years ago being a big Back to the Future fan. They had a division, which I think is kind of, all these companies have kind of changed a little bit, but they had a division called Matty Collector. And I don't know how much it really grew, but, we'll talk more about toys and stuff. But when you mentioned that, it reminded me of Back to the Future too. And it was funny because when Bob Zemeckis was filming it, they did a behind the scene interview and he mentioned about the hoverboards and they can't be sold in stores, And
yeah.
that was aired and, families were like going crazy because all the kids were like, man, I want to buy one. And it was, obviously not a real thing. But,
the discipline.
It's like, the kids waking up and they're like, man, I wanted that. And it's like, well, yeah, you can't get that. But yeah, it's always intriguing to me because we know, our friend Radar produced that West Coast Influence DVD, and we think of mini trucks so often, but we have to kind of be reminded that it wasn't like mini trucks were everywhere in the state. And obviously it depended where you grew up and things like that. But yeah, it's always intriguing to me about that. Now, we wanted to talk for a long time about, Steel Flame and the GMC Sonoma. Do you so basically, at what point in your life do you end up acquiring that truck? Do you remember when you first bought it?
I do. It was 99, right at the tail end of 99. I had my Honda, and I was just kind of over the scene. The scene was kind of dying out, and I just wanted something different. I wanted a truck. I was like, man, I just need a truck. So, at the time I wasn't making a ton of money. So I went around to the dealerships and looked around at, trucks and figured what I could afford. And I wanted a full size, to be honest with you. I wanted an OBS full size at that time. Mm-hmm. Couldn't afford it. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll pick up an S10. So went to a couple of dealerships around the area, and nobody had one. The only one that had one, it was actually a GMC, was Long Beach dealership. So I tried to get the dealership by my house to do a dealer trade, and they were like, no, we're not going to do it. So I just went over to Long Beach GMC, picked up the Sonoma, and that's when history. Yeah, pretty much.
It was ironic because back, usually I'll try to do a red, white, and blue photo, different, July 4th, Veterans Day, things like that. And I had shared on Veterans Day this year, and I shared a red, a white, and a blue. And dude, I guess I knew in the back of my mind the truck was originally white, but when I shared it, somebody was like, oh, that's cool. You put the white truck in the blue truck, and that's Steel Flame. And it kind of dawned on me. I was like, oh, yeah. So when that truck, for those that don't know, when you first bought it, it was white.
Yeah, that was me, actually.
Yeah, I think you chimed in. I was like, damn.
I'm like, because I posted, and I'm like, oh, right on, And then I went back and looked at it. I'm like, wait a minute, that's my truck when it was white. So, yeah that was, I think that picture was, I want to say that was a Forbidden Fantasy show.
Okay.
It didn't go to too many shows when it was white. It's been to Truck Jam, Super Chevy show, and then Forbidden Fantasy, maybe another show. But yeah, that was me. I chimed in and said, yeah, it's the same truck.
Yeah, and it was funny because a lot of times I'll say, hey, I'm going to go on SoCal Customs, and I'm going to just look for a red truck, a white truck, and a blue truck. And I was like, man, it was like mind-blowing. So maybe that's what really sparked me to say, damn it, I got to make this episode happen. So that was a good thing. But
yeah.
So when, so you get the truck, right? And, you're kind of in your early adulthood and whatnot, and you're deciding, hey, what do I want to do with it? Obviously, like you said, stuff's been in your blood. Did you decide, hey, I just want to bag it, or I want to load truck, or I'm going to hit some truck runs? How did that come about?
No, man. So, I didn't know at that time. I knew nobody in the truck scene. Again,
okay.
Honda. Man, I was going in so many directions with what I wanted to do with this truck. First, I was going to put some ricer wheels on it.
Yeah,
it was just ridiculous. No, and then it was like, you know how it is with wheels. You just go back and forth on what you want, you know. And back then, again, I didn't know really anything about trucks. I didn't know size of wheels, what would look good, what would fit. I didn't know, how much to lower it. I knew nothing. So let's see. I had worked at a car audio shop before. One of my jobs before working at Mattel. It was called Audio Options, and they were out of, I believe, Lawndale at first, and then they ended up moving to Torrance. And the owner there knew a guy from American Racing.
Okay.
The owner had a Camaro, and he had some torque thrust rims on his Camaro. And I'm like, oh, those are pretty cool,
Yep.
Who doesn't torque thrust rim? It's like
agreed.
The standard, Yeah. So he's like, oh, I know a guy who works at American Racing. I can get you a set. I'll hook you up. So I'm like, all right, cool. So he got me a set. They were 18s. They were staggered. They were 18 by 10 in the back and an 18 by 8.5 up front or something like that. And before putting the wheels on, I picked them up. I'm like, there's no way that wheel's going to fit back there. And he's like, it'll fit, And then the guy at American, he's like, it'll fit. I promise you it'll fit. There's a truck out in Carson, another S10 that has 20 by 10s in the back and 18s up front. I promise you it'll fit. And I'm like, no way, it's not gonna fit. So I went, got the tires mounted, put it on. Sure enough, it fit. And that kind of started the whole spiral of just wanting to do so much stuff with the truck. I realized there was truck magazines, Mini Truckin', Truckin magazine, Street Truck. So of course I started picking up all the magazines, and one of the truck magazines was Street Trucks, and I'm thumbing through it and I see this silver S10 with black rally stripes on it.
Yeah.
20 by 10, torque thrust in the back, 18s up front. It's Jay Larossa's truck.
Boom.
So, they say, Jay owns Sport Truck Specialties at the time, and they give the address of the shop. So I'm like, oh man, I'm going to go swing by there after work. So I swung out there one day after work, and that's when I met Jay. And that's just like when I got schooled on what should be done to a truck, basically. So
yeah, you were making those inroads with different guys. Like you said, you didn't know a lot of guys, so
yeah,
the magazines were kind of the advertisements. And ironically enough, his was the second mini truck on the cover of Street Trucks, So it was like, I mean, what a small world,
Yeah. So, yeah, I met Jay, and Jay and I became best friends. I was at his shop pretty much every day after work. Jay pretty much taught me everything on airbag suspension. We worked a deal. I knew a lot about car audio. My Honda Civic, I was competing in Iasca shows.
Oh, damn.
I had a big custom sound system in it. So I knew a lot about car audio. I was doing car audio installs on the side. So Jay said, hey, if you build me a system in my S10, I'll bag your truck. So I'm like, done. So I dropped my truck off at a shop. I took his truck to my house, and I built him a system in it. And I machined these really cool billet amp mounts for the amp rack. And it's the same system that you see in his feature.
Mm-hmm.
Has the floating PPI amps and the 3 image dynamic subs. But anyways, so we'll back up a little bit. So Jay, he ended up lowering my truck, and then we made the deal of, build a system in my truck and I'll bag your truck. So, and it just went crazy after that. Like, I was addicted. Like every corner, every stoplight, driving everywhere, I was wearing those switches out. Like,
oh yeah,
yeah, you know how it is. When a kid gets his first set of airbags on a car or truck, it's like nothing else matters.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So around this time, so it's white. Obviously, we posted the photo, and we'll do it again from SoCal Customs. Then it's bagged, and you being around stereo and stuff, you're going, hey, I want to go to the next level. I remember that the rendering, they even mentioned this in the Street Trucks cover feature, the rendering had appeared in Word on the Street, which Courtney kind of really drove a lot of that. How did the concept, are you good at drawing? Did you sketch something out and go, okay, man, like this thing's starting to manifest. I want it to be like this, like Steel Flame?
Yeah. So, oh man, Jay's truck was getting painted. Ryan Evans moved from Texas, I don't know if he came straight from Texas to Compton is where his shop was. Ryan's old shop in Compton was the old West Coast Customs shop.
Okay.
Ryan. I don't know if Ryan moved from Texas to San Diego and then San Diego to Compton. I'm not too sure on that. Mm-hmm. But Jay and I, if I remember right, Jay and I heard of this painter that moved to Compton. We were told by a mutual friend that had work done by him. So Jay ended up getting his truck painted before mine. So then I'm like, well, Jay can't have his truck painted. I need my truck painted now.
Right.
So I went over to Ryan's shop. I went over there a few times when he was painting Jay's truck, and I met Ryan. I told him, hey, I want to paint my truck. And so here we go. We're back to the import days. Hey man, I want to paint my truck that chameleon color. It flips from green to purple. And Ryan just looked at me like, what is wrong with you? So we laughed about that. We still laugh, but he's like, I'm not painting your truck that color. And then I'm like, okay, well, what about Honda SI blue? And he's like, I'm not going to paint a color just right out of the can, So I'm like, all right. So I started coming up with some ideas. I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll do flames, but I don't want them to look like Jay's, I definitely wanted blue. And I was at work one day, and I had a bunch of Hot Wheels stickers laying around, and I was just looking at the stickers. They were on my desk, and I think to this day, the sticker's still on the front lower driver's side of the windshield. It's just a Hot Wheels flame, and it's a liquid metal looking sticker. It says Hot Wheels.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's it right there. I want the flames to resemble liquid metal, like a mercury liquid metal look,
Oh yeah.
So I brought it to Ryan, and he's like, yeah, I like that. So then I had asked him, I said, hey man, I kind of want to put Hot Wheels on the hood. And Ryan was like all for it. So, of course I got to get permission. So I said, hey, let me go to work. Let me talk to the guys in licensing. Let me make sure that it's okay. So I went back to work, and my buddy Carson Lev was in the Hot Wheels department, the Hot Wheels group. He was doing all the licensing and stuff like that. So I ran up by him, and he said, yeah, no problem. I just have to sign some agreements and stuff like that. And at the time, there was no Hot Wheels diecast on the table. That wasn't even thought of. It was just like, hey,
just this idea. Yep.
Yeah, just give me permission to put the Hot Wheels logo on the hood. I think it'll be cool. So they gave me permission. So before that, when I brought up the idea to Ryan, of course, I'm still young. I'm not making very much money. So, hey, Ryan, you know what you're going to charge me, to do this. So if you look at that rendering I sent you, or one of those renderings, on the very bottom, you'll see two prices there.
Interesting.
And it doesn't matter now. But
right.
I think one of them was like, with the Hot Wheels sponsor, it was like $2,500. Without the Hot Wheels sponsor, it was $3,500.
Right.
It's like super, super cheap to these days, prices. Like, I don't know if Ryan would get pissed, but I guess it doesn't matter. But
20 years ago ish, right?
Yeah. So I went back to Ryan. I said, hey, they'll do it. They'll approve it. So he said, okay. I think he contacted House of Color for me. House of Color donated all the paint for it, simply for the fact because Hot Wheels is on the hood, to be honest with you.
Yep.
House of Color gave all the paint. So we got the paint all taken care of. And I had met Courtney through Jay at Jay's shop. And so, of course, Courtney did the word on the street, and that just kind of pushed the completion of the truck in regards to getting product for the truck. I had companies calling me saying, hey, we heard you're doing this. You want a set of wheels? Vortec, hey, you want a supercharger for the truck? And I'm like, yeah, but what's that going to cost me? Nothing.
Yeah.
Just send us So, I get all these companies sending me product for the truck. KMC Wheel, we did a big thing with KMC Wheel. They ended up making a Hot wheel because of this deal. There's a lot of companies out there that, I don't want to take the credit, but they did benefit from this truck.
Yeah, and that's like a perfect scenario. 20 years ago, you couldn't have come up with a better project plan. You met the right guy, Jay, right? Yeah. He has some connections. You start, and this thing really starts coming together. Like, I mean, many of us could dream of a situation like this, and it was just like, boom, all of the cards were just coming out right exactly how they needed to.
Yeah, it worked out perfect. I mean, it couldn't have been better, So Courtney was a big push on that, obviously, with the magazine side of it, putting the word on the street, rendering. That rendering, back to your question, the line art for that rendering, there was basically two renderings that were done. The one that looks exactly like a Sonoma S10. That line art was done by myself and another, I can't remember his name, another Hot Wheels illustrator that worked in the department.
It wasn't Dave Martis?
No, so Dave Martis did the actual rendering of what the Hot Wheel die body lines would look like.
Okay.
The real rendering that Dave did is the one I sent you on my garage wall. That's the original Hot Wheels illustrator rendering. So it was another guy that I worked with. We came up with that line art one, and that's the one that I brought to Ryan. So if you look at those other renderings, you'll see the hood flames drawn out. You'll see the tonneau cover flames drawn out, where it says chaotic on there. So those are Ryan's drawings right there.
Got it.
So so Courtney was a big push on that. Like I said, once that came out in the magazine, I had companies contacting me, kind of word of mouth. You know how it goes. They are hearing that, hey, there's a Hot Wheels guy building a Hot Wheels truck. It's going to be at SEMA show. Let's give him what he needs. So that's kind of how that started.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And just to hit on a couple aspects of it, right? If we go over to your point, paint Ryan Evans, many of the new school guys, the younger audience we have, he's on Count Customs, right? So, but back in the day, he owned Chaotic, as you mentioned, kind of customs.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, he laid down timeless, graphics on that thing. And, Ryan has chimed in on post. Maybe we'll be able to get him on sometime. But I also think that the liquid metal reminds me of, I'm sure you've heard this over the years, but like Terminator 2. That was a big thing in the early 90s, but that's what I think of.
Yeah.
And then Interior Stitchcraft, so shout out to them. They hit us up recently when we were doing the MIC episode, so that was cool. You mentioned Jay, Sport Truck Specialties and stuff like that too.
Revo did the seats. I met Revo years before building the Hot Wheels truck back in the import scene. Revo did interiors for everything, boats, cars, trucks, everything, motorcycles. So I had met Revo years before building the Hot Wheels truck.
Yeah.
So of course, when I had the seats done, and I just wanted the seats done. So because the S10, it's just 2 seats pretty much. The back was just all stereo. So I brought him the seats, and here's another situation. Was like, okay, what are you going to charge me? It's like nothing. He ended up doing the seats. He ended up doing the headliner. He ended up doing underneath the tonneau cover. And if you look at the headliner, I don't know if there's really any good shots. I don't remember if there is in any magazines, but the headliner's flames, I'm pretty sure they match the flames on the hood. He did it in suede. It was a 2-tone suede, black with like a silver kind of grayish flames on there. And it was cool how he did it because it was done in 2 pieces. It wasn't like stitched together all the way around the flame lick or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So you don't see any. It's like he actually cut out a piece of foam and did like an inlay. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, but, it definitely was. And I think the other thing you mentioned, I always wanted to mention the Vortex supercharged system because that was not something you saw too often on the 4.3s. I thought that was cool. And then you did the deal, like you said, with KMC. I think those were the units, right? KMC units that were on it.
Units, yep.
Yeah, and that's what a few guys had chimed in on a post I made, and they said, they were curious because they felt like there were a lot of good tie-ins and sponsorships and stuff. But again, it just goes to show you in that era when Courtney, ran word on the street and things like that, and there was the buzz that was forming out there on the west side, people were starting to say, hey, this thing's going to come together. Now, my recollection, and you sent me some photos, but I believe it went to SEMA like 01.
Yeah, it was 2001 it went to SEMA. Like every SEMA project, it was last minute. I think I was putting the sub enclosure in the night before, or maybe that night I think the night before I was setting that in. Yeah, it's funny because, just like Jay's shop, when Ryan had my truck, man, I'm sure I bugged the shit out of him. He's this kid coming to the shop all the time. He's trying to work, but he had my truck and it was like, hey, what can I do to help? So I learned how to, wet sand, high fill primer, on all the audio stuff. So it was like late night before SEMA. I think I set that thing in there, screwed the subs in. But yeah, I think it was 2001.
Yeah, it seems like so long ago. Now, is there anything, because I remember you were in Extreme Lows, I remember the decal on it. Was there any, maybe, you kind of shared some things about the truck, but is there maybe something that is more obscure other than maybe the headliner and some of those things that people, or a fun fact about the truck other than the Hot Wheels stuff that we'll talk about next that you wanted to share, or anything you could think of?
Yeah, there's a few things. The taillights. A lot of people thought that those were just caddy lights. And I understand, caddy lights, I don't remember what year the caddy light fit pretty good in the back of a S10. So talking with Ryan, he's like, man, we need to do some taillights. We don't just want to leave the stock taillights in here. So he had done, there was another S10 driving around the South Bay that he did just these like acrylic. He just kind of shaped these acrylic kind of teardrop. I don't remember what the shape was, but it fit in the back of the S10 pretty good. It was just an acrylic lens with, I think, LEDs glued to the back or epoxy to the back. And I said, no, man, I want to do something better than that. So he came up with the shape on a piece of cardboard, and I took it to work, and I machined buckets on the CNC machine at work, of course, after hours. I machined these buckets with acrylic lenses, and the cool thing about the lenses is they were pretty much watertight I want to say airtight, because the only way to get that lens out of the bucket is there's a hole in the back of the bucket, and you put air, pressurized, air in the back, and it'll slowly push the lens out of the bucket.
Wow.
And I etched the flame. I drew out a matching flame on the back side of the acrylic, and I gave it a little quick sandblast on it to etch that design in there. We had some some company back east make us the LED boards for it. But yeah, so there's the tail lights, and the thing about the tail lights is they're a compound. The rear of that truck is a compound curve. So what Ryan did is I made the tail lights. We bolted the tail lights in there, and he actually shaped the tail light to the contour of the bed.
Oh, wow.
So he was grinding and smoothing out. So the tail light is a perfect match of the bed. It doesn't sink in. It doesn't protrude out or anything like that. It is the perfect compound curve to the bed of the truck.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I like how the lenses were kind of, in that era, clear tail lights, kind of late 90s, early 2000s was big, but those tail light, the color, it looked great on it.
Yeah, they turned out really cool. And then there was the actuated license plate. I'd always wanted to build stuff. I'm always building something. So, when I was building this truck, I was making, back then we had the old Firestone air compressors. I was making these big billet heat sinks because they were always burning up, getting hot. So I made these big billet heat sinks for Firestone air compressors that just slid over the head, just kind of dissipate that heat a little bit more. I was just making all kinds of billet brackets and stuff here and there for the truck. And then I didn't want a license plate on the truck. I just thought, like, everybody does the work on the back of these trucks, they smooth them all out, and then they just put an ugly ass license plate on the back.
Right.
You got to have a license plate. So I'm like, man, I want to do something that's hidden. And I know I've seen, hidden license plate holders and stuff like that. So I'm like, man, I'm just going to design my own thing and make my own thing. So I made this license plate that slides up and down that you can mount either in your tailgate or you can mount it at the front of the bed right behind the back window. So I made this aluminum bracket that held 2 little air cylinders. It had its own separate valve that tagged into your air system. So of course you had to have some type of air system,
Yep.
And so I made that. I want to say Courtney's truck, Kermit. Yeah, we did a tech article on it, and I want to say that his truck was the first one that I put one in. I don't think it was mine.
Yeah, we'll have to go back and look at that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, we did a tech article on it. Maybe it was my truck. I don't remember, but there was only 3 trucks that had the air actuated license plate. It was my truck, Jay's truck, and Courtney's truck. I had plans of like producing these things. I had a lot of people. I think Mike Self ran an ad somewhere in one of the Street Trucks magazines about these license plates, or maybe it was the tech article in Street Trucks. I think it was the tech article in Street Trucks that actually, I formed my own little company. It was called Billet Customs, I think it was.
Yeah, because they mentioned that in the feature. It said Billet Customs under your name.
Yeah, so I had plans of making these and producing them, but I was young and dumb. I didn't know anything. All I knew how to do was just build stuff,
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about selling or anything. So it kind of just,
fizzled out.
Fell down.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just like whatever, I mean, I don't think I could have I couldn't have sold them for what I had into them. You know what I mean? It was just kind of one of the things. It was a cool idea. I'm sure nowadays, if I came up with something that was pretty cool, I'm sure there would be a lot of people that would spend the actual money to have it. But back then, we're mini truckers, man. We're
cheap. We're broke mini truckers.
Yeah, scrounge together whatever we can to make this happen. So that didn't really go anywhere. It was a cool idea. A lot of people liked it. It's funny. I'd go to a show, instead of airing out the truck driving, I just air out the license plate, and we're like, oh, check out the license plate, so, and when I would park, I would just air it up enough to where you just seen California. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So,
yep.
It was cool.
Yeah. And it was ironic because your truck was the 4th mini truck on the cover. So you had the black unibody, Jay's, our homie Paul, Paul Davis, he had the Green Ombre. He was on as a guest last year. And then Steel Flame. And Paul also had like an actuator on his. It was like at the bed. And his was a little bit different. And then on my truck that we ended up building years later, Bada Bing, AVS, they're a company out there, and they make a bunch of cool parts. They made, at the time, one that would tract, and mine's inside the glass. So I always thought, to your point, that was a cool thing, too, because then you could hide it at a show.
Yeah.
Which I thought was awesome.
It just gave it a look, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, man. It looked good. And the thing that I think, just summarizing the truck in my head, is like, you think paint, engine, interior, inside the bed, stereo, it had pretty much everything. And I'm kind of curious, like, do you recall when Courtney shot it? Because obviously it ran April 2002. I'm guessing was it after that SEMA that you guys maybe linked up? Because it was a very cool layout there.
Yeah, it was after SEMA. It was over in the area of Jay's shop and Ryan's shop in Dominguez Hills, if I remember right. Right now in that area there's a soccer stadium. It used to be Home Depot Center. I don't know what they call it now, but in that area, it was just being developed. So if you look at Courtney's shot, it's just asphalt road. There's no real buildings around it because it was just being developed.
Right.
It was later in the day. I do remember that. We had the sun to our backs. The sun was setting. So I do remember it. I was there. I remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah, there's so many iconic kind of West Coast shoots. I don't know what it is about the sky. And I had to remind people, like, that's before, maybe the early infancy of a Photoshop type thing. But, I mean, those guys weren't really – I mean, they had to use their skill, to be able to get those sunsets, if you will. And it just really was a great backdrop, I think. Courtney and even Brian, those guys, like those three-quarter shots and those layouts they did – were just awesome. I think it really enforces it, and it's not just a 2-page feature. It's like, you get into like basically like a 6-page deal. That was awesome for a mini truck and street trucks.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. Now, I do want to kind of mention, like, around this time, my understanding, the whole Hot Wheels thing was starting to kind of come together. So if we think of, this was April 2002 issue, and let's say it was shot, 3-4 months, if you will, ish before that. The other cool thing, though, because I want you to share that story, but the prototype was used, which I thought was so awesome because it hyped up what was coming, but they put the prototype, Courtney did a photo of it in the feature. How cool was that? Yeah,
I still have that. That's one of the pictures I sent you last night.
So awesome.
I won't get rid of that.
Right. That's a keeper.
Yeah, it's just, I won't get rid of it. So how that happened was Ryan finished up the paint job, and I had, I want to say it was the next day, maybe the day after that, Ryan had just finished buffing that truck. I threw some seats in it. I started putting it together, put the bumper on, put the grill on, the headlights. I got pretty much the whole outside presentable.
Okay.
And I trailered it into work. And, this whole time, all the guys, hey, where's your truck? I'm the youngest guy at that time working in the design center. So I took a lot of shit from guys,
Right, you're the low guy in totem pole.
Yeah, I selling my Honda, back then we had the recycler. I don't even know if the recycler's still around, but I put my Honda in the recycler and I would get calls from the guys in the shop. Hey, just want to know how much you're selling your roller skates for, and, hey, does your shoe come with laces? All day long. You got to have thick skin. But, when I got the truck, they would just give me shit. Hey, when's your piece of shit truck going to be done? You ruined it. You lowered it. They're all older guys.
Sure.
They're driving lifted Broncos, but anyways, so about 2 days, I think it was 2 days after Ryan had finished it up, I put it on a trailer. I brought it into work, and I walked over to all the guys that were pretty much in support of the idea. Everybody was supportive. It's just these main guys, Carson, Dave, Larry Woods. You may have heard of his name. He's a big name in the Hot Wheels. He's like Hot Wheels king. I went up to them and said, hey, I got my truck here. It's out in the parking lot. So they all went out there, walked, man, they shit their pants. They could not believe how good it looked. They were so impressed with the paint job on it. They immediately said, take it off the trailer. We're taking pictures of it. We're building a die cast.
Holy shit. You're probably like, wait,
yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I was just like, what? Like I didn't understand what they were saying, So I got it off the trailer. I had no interior, it just 2 seats. Brought it over to an area where they wanted to take a bunch of pictures of it. They got all the pictures done. They really started getting into the project, meaning any sponsors that I had, they needed releases from them so they could use their logo in any type of advertising, on diecast cars, anything, magazine, print, whatever it may be. They needed to know that it was okay from, KMC Wheel, Colorado Customs, Vortec, Stitchcraft, Ford Truck Specialties, Chaotic Ryan. All my sponsors, they needed them to sign releases saying, hey, we may use your logo on any Hot Wheel in the future anytime we want. Now, I don't know about you, but if you own a company and you got Hot Wheels coming to you saying, we just need your signature, you're not going to get any money, but we just need your signature to use your logo on a car. Sign this paper.
You'd be cool with that, right? I mean, it's like, hey, free advertising.
So
that's what I thought.
So that's how the Hot Wheels started. And then once they got the pictures of it, they gave me. I said, hey, I want to build a prototype of the truck. So back then, they didn't have a licensing agreement for the exact design of an S10 Sonoma truck from Chevy. So what they did have is they had, you could probably find them, but they had an S10 drag truck, and it was super wide. The body lines were pretty much the same, but they got to change so much of it to basically not get sued.
I see.
So they widened the truck. They did some other thing. I think they may have chopped the top just a little bit, made the back of the truck just a little bit taller, like the tailgate area, just kind of gave it more of like a more streamlined, slant to it, look to it. So I took that truck, sawed it in half from the front bumper all the way through the top of the hood, through the roof, through the bed, sawed it in half and I don't know what I used, solder or something. I don't remember back in the day. Basically bonded it back together to make it the proper width. Mm-hmm. I don't remember the name of the department there, but they were responsible for doing all the artwork for most of all the prototype toys that we were building. So they were able to print me out the water decals for the exact flames that Ryan did. Basically from the pictures, they just shrunk them down. So Insane. They gave me, I'm pretty sure I still have the pictures or some stickers still. They gave me a sheet of all the stickers for the truck that is 1/64th scale. So I was able to cut them out. I got the paint from Ryan, the actual paint. It was a House of Color, True Blue, and Passion Pearl were the colors that we used on that truck. I got that paint. I painted the Hot Wheel that color. I put the decals on, put the clear over it. I had my buddy Brandon over in the face painting department go through with the interior and paint the interior, paint the dash, the gray with the blue bezel, the silver steering wheel, the speakers in the back. I mean, he made it look almost identical to the full size truck.
Yep.
And at that time I just threw whatever, I think they're called the PR5 wheels, whatever they had on there, made some false floor body drop on the thing. And that was the prototype. It had no plastic windows or anything in it. So when Courtney shot that, I brought that with us for the photo shoot. So of course he wanted to get that in there.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And like that was always, there was a lot of, buzz. Like I remember back in the Street Source days, right? The website where guys were like, oh yeah, he works at Hot Wheels. And, like there was all these variations of the story. But is there one thing that you've heard over the years that you kind of just chuckle about and go, like a portion of the story that somebody's like, oh yeah, is there anything that you've heard that's just like so out there?
Yeah. The truck came first. The full size truck came first, then the Hot Wheel. I did not build this truck after the steel flame diecast. I mean, they really did the research. They would see the timeline of everything. The diecast, I think it was released in 2002. The truck, I mean, it's all out there, but the truck came first. The truck was 100% my design. Obviously, Ryan had some involvement in it, but the truck came first, and then the diecast. I built the prototype, but that's like the biggest thing is like what came first.
Right,
a lot of
chicken
people,
or the egg or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, he copied the diecast. Like, dude, just look it up. It's all there.
Yeah. Everybody likes to kind of think. Yeah, everyone kind of likes to feel like they think they know the story, or they're like, they're telling their buddies, "Oh yeah, such and such," and it's like, so often people are wrong.
It's funny because like you kind of. Another thing was like, oh, he got everything for free. Well, it's not necessarily true. I mean, I got a lot of stuff for free, but I mean, it's like, to the people that said that, I was like, well, what would you do? Were you going to say no? You know what I mean? Like, you got people calling you saying, hey, we want to put this, you want this for your truck? We'll send it your way. What are you going to say? No?
Exactly.
I mean,
like some people have to think, I tell people, put yourself in that situation, and I think sometimes it's maybe jealousy that other people didn't get the opportunity, but you're like, hey, you didn't go out and say, hey, look, I got this master plan. We're going to do this truck and get all these guys involved. Like, it kind of just came together like a great project, man.
It's funny, man, because you mentioned jealousy. Like, I don't know what it was. Again, I was super young. I want to say I was 21. Going to car shows, truck shows and stuff. And like back then over here, I had the best times, man. I think like a lot of your guys on your podcast have said, Rob, I think remember saying those times were just the best times ever. Like to get truck run, truck show, it was just the best times. But man, just some of the animosity you would get from people were just dirty looks or just like, F that guy, it's like, dude, I don't even know you. Like, why? I mean, dude, there's like, I'm not going to name any names, but I'm not going to name any names, but
and you can just still remember the shit 20 years ago.
He is. Yeah, he knows who he is. It was a guy, another S10 competitor, same class, I think. Man, just like did not like me for whatever reason. I don't know. Never even talked to the guy.
Yeah.
Just talk trash from what I heard, but turns out he has a Hot Wheels poster in his garage. So how about that?
Speaking of that, I got to find the guy's name before we finish in a few minutes, in a little bit. There's a guy, when you said because there is the poster, there's a guy that posted, I got to find it, and I got to find his name. I swear I've never seen a guy that had so many. He had to have 100 of them. Like in this one area, yeah, and he has them all hung up like perfectly symmetrical and everything. And I was like, holy shit,
Wow.
But that's cool to me because it, a lot of us, whether we had Hot Wheels as a kid, I think we all had at least one, that so many people link back their car addiction to Hot Wheels. And,
sure.
One thing that doesn't change over time is the damn prices on those things, right? I mean,
9 cents or 98 cents, right?
Yeah, for $1, dude. I mean, you get some good fun out of it. And I've got two. I've got one that got opened at some point over the years, and then I acquired, or maybe my buddy Kool-Aid gave me another one back in the day. Yeah. Now, they did something I didn't really think about until just now. They did re-release those as Hot Wheels will, right? Over the years, there are, I think, some variants, though, right? Different colors.
Yeah. So I lost track, but I think there's probably 6 or 7 different Tampos of that truck. I'm sure I have them all.
Yeah.
But, I don't even know if they still make that truck itself in a different configuration. I don't know. But
yeah, and sometimes they'll come back because there was a mini truck from the 80s, and then they re-released it like 3, 4, 5 years ago, and everyone was like, man, there must be a mini trucker at Hot Wheels. And I'm like, now listen, I don't have a huge collection. I have a few, and I had to remind people, I was like, dude, that was an 80s, like late 80s mini truck that they had released, but it was one that was like topless and it had a speaker in the bed of it, you know?
Yeah.
But to
it was a Nissan.
Yeah, and to your point, it's like for this company to be as successful as they have, they might wait 10, 20 years, kind of like Nike. They're going to bring back some shoes, whatever, but they have to kind of come back, and, that helps them, get their return on investment.
So it's funny you say that, because back when I built this truck, when I approached them about it, Carson was very supportive of it, but a lot of the guys were like, nah, we're sticking to the imports. They had some big deals with Honda. Honda gave Hot Wheels a Honda Civic, and they did that car up with, Robert over at Modern Image was a big part of that.
Yeah, we had him on a long time ago. Yeah, shout out to Robert.
Yeah, super, super good dude. So they built the Honda, and I had told them, hey, you guys you're like missing the ball here.
Yes.
Like, you guys need guys out to the truck jamboree, check these shows out, because you're missing a whole market. I mean, their trucks were, I don't know what, a dinosaur on wheels. I don't know what trucks they actually had out at that time, other than that little S10 drag truck, but they were just missing a whole market. And I think with the Hot Wheels truck, it changed a lot.
I think
it changed
so.
a lot. From Hot Wheels. Met Christina, Hot Rod.
Right.
Christina.
Yeah.
She worked there as an illustrator for a little bit.
Oh.
And then when I ended up leaving Mattel, she went to work for Jada Toys, and they were making all the Dub City cars. So I ended up working at Jay's shop for a little bit after Mattel, and then I ended up going over to Jada Toys working there. The whole idea was they were supposed to build a model shop, and I was going to be doing all the prototype work there, but that never happened. I ended up leaving there. So, and of course they were big time into like, the Escalades and the trucks and all the stuff that Hot Wheels should have been doing,
Yeah, like I'm into the 60s Lincolns. I got my brand Lincoln Addict, and I've always loved those cars. And you remember when Jada was doing, those were a big one for them. They had the suicide doors and the hood, reverse and all that. But that stuff was always crazy. And like even back then, they were selling them for like $16-18. I was like, man, for that big of a car, like it was a great value.
Yeah. A lot of detail in those cars.
Yeah, way more than I'd expect.
Yeah.
Now, I did want to ask you, so like, just high level, but like working at Mattel and then deciding to leave, like, do you just get to the point where you're kind of burned out, or do you kind of feel like, career wise, hey, I want to be more, more creative? Is that what leads you to maybe leave a Mattel company?
No, it was bad decisions, company acquirements there. They downscaled a lot. A lot of people got caught up in it. Am I glad I'm not there? Yeah. I don't think I would have lasted much longer being there. Of course, a lot of stuff started going overseas, and rapid prototyping and a lot of the hands-on prototyping started going away.
Got it.
Back
technology
then,
and all that cost and all that stuff.
Oh, back then the 3D printing was a thing, but it was called something else. We had machines, SLS machines, SLA machines. They still used laser, but they were using resins and powders to build products, prototypes and stuff like that. There was no 3D printing. It's pretty much the same concept, but it had just started getting into that. And you can kind of see the writing on the wall where, a lot of these prototype builders like myself, they're not going to be there much longer.
Got it.
So,
yeah, it's an unfortunate thing in my opinion, just because of the, the technology and things like that. But at the same time, I mean, you and I both know it's just crazy that the cost cutting that companies do,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Now, I had posted July 2nd, 2021, way back Wednesday. Thanks, Tyler Square Body Society, maybe, for this one. He had the Hot Wheels banner or poster. And then, of course, the guy Brian Splawn, Splawn, he says, I got mine. Thanks, Sean, way back when. And, dude, he's got, I'd have to count them. I mean, let's just say at least 50 of them. I'll text you the photo. But
that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, guys are out there, they love their Hot Wheels, that's for sure. Now, one thing I meant to ask you earlier, but I wanted to make sure I get it in the Street Trucks feature, it did mention a $100 bill on the tailgate. Is there any truth to that? I'm guessing there is.
Yeah, 100%. That was Ryan's signature back in the day. I don't think he did it on every paint job, but it was like some of the more prestigious ones, I guess you want to say. He did that $100 bill. I of course wanted it. I said, I absolutely have to have that. Here's a brand new crisp $100 bill. Now I'm broke.
Right. Yeah.
But I got a $100 bill. So I thought it was the coolest thing. Like I had never seen anything like that before.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of painters, there's some copycats out there, but that's not for me to say. I'm not a painter, but I think Ryan was the originator on that. Like I said, I've never seen anything like that before. Jay's truck has it. There's a few other trucks. So
yeah, and shout out to you and Ryan, and especially Ryan, because the term "keep it 100," which is kind of come out of hip hop, is a big thing. Everybody says it now, but I mean, he was keeping it 100 way long before people were trying to say I'm keeping it 100, right?
Absolutely.
So that's good stuff. A few more questions for you. So the one thing I wanted to point out, so we always gravitate towards April 2002. Street Trucks, obviously cover, 6-page feature, amazing. I'll post it for those. For those that don't know, I did go through this issue on our YouTube channel, so you can check that out. But also, and I tried to dig mine out. I looked for 30 minutes, and I had it out for 2 years, and I misplaced it. But Sport Truck, around 2003, they also run the feature, which I thought was awesome, and that ran as, I think, Child's Play.
Yeah. John O'Neill shot that. I don't remember who did the article. Gary something. I don't remember his name, but John shot that. I think it was out in the Riverside area somewhere. I don't remember the location.
Yeah, it was cool because, Sport Truck always would, it was great. I love that magazine, right? Because they weren't afraid to shoot something that had been on the cover already, and they gave a different spin, which I always appreciated. That's
what I was just going to say. I was super happy to, somebody else wanted to shoot it. You know what I mean? Back in the day, when this thing was being built, I had, mini trucking. I had trucking, obviously street trucks.
Yep.
I had them all calling me, hey, we want to shoot this truck. I already promised Courtney. I'm not going to go back on my promise. I wanted it on the cover of Street Trucks. I had trucking tell me basically, hey, we'll put it on the cover of Truckin' and Mini Truckin'.
Wow.
To this day, I still don't believe that.
Yep.
I had a lot of people saying, no, they can't do that, blah, blah, blah. They've never had a mini truck on the cover of Truckin'. I don't know if they were making exceptions or it was just kind of, hey, we'll just, we'll tell them that.
Yeah.
It'll be on the cover of Mini Truckin', but
yeah.
But back to it, I was super excited that John wanted to shoot it. Sport Truck wanted the truck because it was already featured, Yep. He said, hey, it's not going to be on the cover. I'm like, I don't care,
Yep.
So,
I thought it was sick. Now, a magazine so there's a couple obscure magazines, and when we had Devin on from Relax, we talked about his Mosbury Delight, his ran in an obscure magazine. This is always intriguing to me because a lot of times, especially in that era, we didn't have access to buy these obscure magazines. So oftentimes only the owner, sometimes a builder, will have an issue. And CAL magazine is very rare, at least here. Of course, some of the Japan guys we follow, they've got sick, insane collections. But in CAL magazine, dude, that you had shared that with me, and I really appreciated. I had asked you, hey, were there any other magazines? And how fucking cool was that? You have Steel Flame and Jay Larossa's both in that issue.
Yeah, that was, I don't remember how that came about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure it was because of Jay's shop.
Yep.
I think both those Japanese magazines, the CAL and the A-Cars, Jay had a lot to do with that. I want to say, I think CAL came first. They did the special. They included both of our trucks. I don't know how Jay met those guys. You got to get Jay on, man.
Yeah, I did message him recently, and he said he would come on. And
Perfect.
I wasn't even, when I asked him, he's always kind of been on our list. We always loved his S10. And it was funny, I knew that there was a connection with you, but when I was messaging with him or exchanging comments, it wasn't even about oh yeah, we're getting ready to have Steve on. But and we wanted him to tell that story on that S10, and that's pretty cool stuff. Now, again, the two obscure magazines I'll share, and that's one of the cool things I love doing about this podcast, because when we link up with someone like you, it says, hey, graciously kind of sharing some of this stuff that people have never seen, at least here for the most part.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, the truck has obviously changed hands over the years. Does it ever amaze you that, number one, it's so beloved, and two, it really has stood the test of time?
Yeah, I'm surprised it's still out there. I'm surprised it's not just destroyed, just because it has changed hands so many times. There's a, it suffered, a few scratches, scrapes. I think the fender was munched up a little bit, but I know Don, who has it now, he's getting it all fixed up right now. And from what I understand, he's bringing it to the Grand National Roadster Show, which is awesome. Like, although I'm not the owner, but still, it's still my truck.
Oh yeah, exactly.
It's going to the Roadster Show, which is awesome, But I know he's taking really good care of it. I think, not including me, I think he's the 5th owner of that truck.
Yep, something like that.
I wanted to buy the truck back after I sold it. Well, not after, but from the first guy I sold it to, the guy who bought it from me. I wanted to buy it back from him. When he was ready to sell, it just didn't happen. And then Scott Pence from Torque Designs, I think his name's Scott, yeah. From Torque Designs ended up buying it. And I told Scott, I said, hey, let me know if you decide to sell it. Please hit me up first. And he did. But at that time, he said, I'll sell it to you for what I bought it for. And I wanted it bad. I wanted it back. I'd just stick it in storage.
Yep.
Give it to my sons, whatever. But I had nowhere to put it at the time. I'm like, man, I can't afford to put it in a storage, just for a truck to sit. So it moved on. I think Fester bought it. I think Fester bought it from Scott. And then it went to, I don't remember who.
Yeah, I was tagging the owners for a minute, and then it kind of got confusing that it had sold again. In September, I was out in California at cruising for a cure at OC Fair. I had never been to that event. And and dude, it was the most well-run show I've ever been to. And I've been going to shows 25 years.
Yeah, I've had the truck there.
Yeah, and what an amazing facility. But Don Garling, as you mentioned, Jr., I slapped hands with him there, and RA Flamed SS. I know Juan Trevito had, I think, chimed in to say, hey, this is the current owner. And I do believe that Juan is involved heavily in getting those trucks out there later this month. So pretty cool. Now, what was funny is people had chimed in, and they said, when's someone going to fix the fender? A couple guys will chime in on that, and the truck was so awesome. Like, dude, I would look at it, I would take photos of it, and like my brain was just always like, man, this truck is so awesome. Like, I didn't even ever realize the fender had the little gash in it, but it's cool that Don's working on it.
Yeah, I think the reason being is because the damage is like right in that liquid metal frame, so it kind of blends right in. So like you said, you really don't notice it until you're like really examining the truck. I mean, it's the first thing I noticed when. I believe the guy I sold it to, it happened to him. He, for whatever reason, aired it out when the wheels were turned and it crunched the.
Yeah,
that's I think what I had heard. But
oh yeah, and we're big fans of Colorado Custom Wheels. We love Michael and team over there, and I've got Colorado Custom Wheels on my '64 Lincoln. And I love those Paradox wheels on it. I think it looks good. And, it's cool. Like, maybe one day it will come back your way if the time's right and if it's something that works for you. But, I've always appreciated, like, you've been cool. Like, we've tagged you in the photos and things. The other thing that I almost forgot to ask is some of my buddies, including Ruben Artiaga, we've talked about, we remember that the truck was on, I swear it was some of the IF guys or something, maybe the Down the Earth guys, but there was a guy that was on a TV show that had a wedding. And what was cool is they did this truck-themed wedding, and it's been in the back of my mind because I think it only saw it once, it aired once, but that was a unique thing, and I think you had shared with me recently, that was like, I think the guy you had sold it to that had like a dog walking business or something.
Yeah, that was Josh.
Okay.
Josh, that's the one I sold it to. He bought that truck with his dog walking earnings.
Crazy. I know when I saw that, I was like, damn.
I had no idea it was such a thing. Like, I'm like, oh, so what do you do? He's like, oh, I walk dogs. I'm like, no. Like, yeah. Is that like your hobby or something? Like, I get it. I love dogs too, but I mean, he's like, no, man, that's how I make my money. And I'm like, wow. So yeah, Josh bought the truck. I don't remember his wife's name. But yeah, they did that, and honestly, I've never even seen the episode. A lot of people told me about it.
Yeah, it was back before streaming. I think we still had DVRs back then, and someone had heard about it. Yeah. But there's some of those little things that they're just hard to find because they just never, showed up online. But
yeah,
dude, man, it's been like a great trip down memory lane. I mean, for me, obviously we were all a lot younger, but knowing, you were kind of a young cat at that time too, and knowing that you enjoyed going to shows and stuff, and hearing the actual real story has been just awesome. Man, I mean, we can't thank you enough for just kind of sitting down with us, man.
Oh, you're welcome, man. Thank you.
Yep, and you can find Steve Platt. It's SMP61. If you do want to follow him, or if you need stuff out in the Vegas area, why don't you give a shout out to your kids and wife or anybody you want to?
Yeah, hi to my wife Janice, all my kids. Definitely a thanks to again Ryan, Jay, Carson, Courtney, of course. Everybody that was a big part in that truck. I'll never forget them. I'll always be thankful. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Do you ever get people to ask you to sign either the Hot Wheels or the poster at least once?
Why you got to bring that up, dude?
Right.
Because, I told my wife, I was like, man, I'm kind of embarrassed. I'm nervous. She's a supporter. She's not into the trucks, but she loves cars.
Right.
She wasn't, but she is now. But she would hear the stories, on Facebook that I signed a Hot Wheel, and she would give me so much shit. And I'm like,
right?
Look, or I signed a poster, and I'm like, look, I didn't do it and just give it to people. They asked me, right. And of course, when they asked me, I'm like, dude, are you serious? You want me to sign this? Like, I'm just some dumb shit kid who built this truck, But to everybody else, on the other side of the fence, they were looking at like, oh my god, it's the truck that we've been waiting to come for it to come out. It's the Hot Wheels. It's a diecast car. You know what I mean? And I get it, but it's so embarrassing. Like.
Well, it is kind of a weird feeling. My truck was on the cover in 2013, and people ask me to sign it. But I also kind of collect things that are sometimes signed. So like I'll have a DVD or things like that. And sometimes I'll ask. It's weird for me to ask someone, "Hey, would you mind signing it? It's going in my collection. I'm not going to sell it." And they're like, "Oh yeah." But
I don't mind, it's just kind of funny, and my wife thinks it's hysterical,
Oh yeah, definitely. But like I said, for all the listeners, go out there and follow Steve Platt, SMP61 on Instagram. Of course, I want to give out the new owner's Instagram. It's relaxed. I'll find it, but it's relaxed SS. You could check that out. I might actually try to have him come on at some point just to talk about acquiring the truck, right, and kind of tell that story. So you guys can look him up. But like I said, dude, for you to take a little bit of time, this was a big thing in our truck scene, let's all be honest. And we appreciate you telling the story here on OLP. And thanks for listening, Steve. And we wish you all the best in 2023 and beyond, man.
Thank you. You as well.
Yep. To your family, you guys stay on the rise, and we'll talk to you soon, Steve.
Right on, man. Take care.
Yo, it's a wrap. Thank you so much. If you listened all the way through, we really appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe. We have a lot more awesome guests lined up for 2023 and beyond. You can follow Steve Platt, again, SMP61 on Instagram. We'd like to thank our title sponsor, Custom Car Show Productions. Their flagship event is every June. Third weekend in June in Biloxi. That's Scraping the Coast. Come on out for the 21st annual, again, this June in Biloxi, Mississippi. Also, their next event in conjunction with Keg Media is Orange Beach Invasion. You can go to obishow.com. Of course, that's going to be the third weekend in March. We'll see you down there, kind of the spring break time in Orange Beach, Alabama. Again, stay on the rise. Thank you so much, Steve, for your time. And we'll hit you guys in 2 weeks with another episode of OLP. We at ya. Peace.